Deep within a valley, 3 princes ruled. 𝒉𝒆'� was first, though a frail sickness claimed him. Next was Geryon, a master of lethal martial arts. Finally, the youngest, the devastatingly beautiful 𝒉𝒆. His face could charm spirits, yet darkness rotted his soul. He seduced the king's concubine, leaving her pregnant. Enraged, the king exiled 𝒉𝒆, nearly slaying the babe. Yet, royal blood stayed his hand, sparing the infant. He cast the child to a lowly servant, naming her 𝒉𝒆, a cursed nuisance born of bitter tears. Growing up, 𝒉𝒆 became her tragic namesake. Each day she wailed, terrified that phantoms were coming to devour her. Her endless weeping and horrific visions became an unbearable nightmare. The king ordered her starved in isolation. On day 10, celestial lightning struck, igniting a massive palace inferno. Miraculously, 𝒉𝒆 emerged unscathed. But then, a haunting, eerie melody began echoing in her ears. Devour Princess 𝒉𝒆 to become human, the song promised. Monsters began a gory frenzy to claim the prize. Finally, the most hideous beast devoured all its rivals. Bloated, it couldn't eat 𝒉𝒆, so it stole her eyes instead. To 𝒉𝒆, it felt like a nightmare. She prayed the darkness would end, yearning to finally step out from her lonely, shadow-filled isolation. Years passed. The legendary warrior Jon seethed with fury over King Geryon's ultimate betrayal. Beryong tried to soothe him, but Jon barked that he'd fought like a dog for a promised royal bride. But now, the king offered the cursed 𝒉𝒆 instead of Geryon. To Jon, this was a spit in the face. Beryong warned against recklessness, but Jon roared, "I was treated no better than a common mongrel." Beryong blamed Jon's lack of influence. Jon lunged, but his lieutenant continued his cold, hard assessment. He reminded Jon that his noble house was crumbling. Pure martial skill couldn't save their dying legacy. That desperation was exactly why he'd marched into the bloody theater of war. Marrying a princess, even a cursed one, granted Jon royal status and power no man could ever ignore. Jon shoved him aside. "The ghost girl brings only death. Anyone near 𝒉𝒆 is marked for the grave." He swore a solemn oath. He would never wed that cursed girl. Beryong urged family unity first. This wasn't about abandoning revenge, but playing the long, deadly game. "Hide 𝒉𝒆 away," he advised. "Once you're powerful enough, claim the beautiful Garen as your true queen." Beryong cautioned him. The time to strike King Geryon wasn't now. Jon vowed vengeance against Geryon. Meanwhile, in a lonely shack, 𝒉𝒆 sat surrounded by snarling, hungry spirits. "Just eat me," she sighed, broken, but the lead phantom refused, biding its time. It threatened the other spirits, choosing to feast on the helpless servants while keeping 𝒉𝒆 for itself. "Take me, not them," 𝒉𝒆 screamed, but her desperate plea only drew a chilling, hollow laugh. Amidst their cruel mockery, a sudden human voice pierced the darkness, calling out her name. "Summons from the king?" 𝒉𝒆 feared execution. Terrified servants entered, their hands trembling as they prepared her. Phantoms jeered as she was escorted from her hovel into the grand, imposing halls of the palace. "Close your eyes," they whispered urgently. Opening them, she was stunned by her own silken beauty. "What is the meaning of this?" she gasped. Shaking, the servant confessed, "You are to wed Jon, the formidable heir of the great Yako clan." 𝒉𝒆 pitied him. Jon must have committed a grave sin to deserve a cursed wife like her. "No, princess. Jon is a celebrated hero of the realm," the servant stammered. Surely he desired the ethereal Garen. The king had cruelly twisted his reward into a living nightmare. The lead ghost hissed, plotting Jon's demise, while the other spirits debated how best to slaughter him. 𝒉𝒆's heart ached. The savior of the nation was walking straight into a supernatural death trap. Adorned in bridal finery, she was led toward the altar where her grim fate awaited. During that long walk, 𝒉𝒆 made a desperate vow. After the vows, she'd begged Jon to exile her, hoping to spare him from her haunting shadows. Determined to seek her end, 𝒉𝒆 approaches Jon to beg for death, yet spirits wail and flee his presence. Hidden within the shadows, malevolent entities watch the impossible scene unfolding between the girl and the damned. They retreat to their blood-soaked master, reporting the anomaly. Despite the unease, the dark plot remains in motion. Their master agrees, yet commands them to bide their time a bit further. Driven by eternal hunger, he resumes his grisly feast. Meanwhile, Jon stares in shock as 𝒉𝒆 draws near. He expected a monstrous wraith, a creature of nightmares. Instead, she appears fragile, small, and utterly mundane. As 𝒉𝒆 dares to meet his gaze, King Garun barks at her for such insolence. He sneers at her supposed blindness. Watching this, Jaeon confirms the king's cruelty but chooses cold indifference. With the ritual concluded, the procession marches on. though Jiayang despises every agonizing second of this farce. The gates swing wide to a judgmental mob. Cruel whispers erupt. They claim the king fooled him into this union. Mockery fills the air regarding Princess Garen, while others tremble, recalling the omen that death follows Soru's wake. The king himself sneers privately, relishing the thought that this marriage spells the ultimate doom of the Yako bloodline. Pushed past his limit by the biting gossip, Jaeon leaps from his steed and charges back in a fury. He roars the monarch's name. Suddenly, steel flashes as masked insurgents strike, sending the panicked masses into a frenzy. Soru's litter is violently overturned. Dazed and bleeding from a head wound, she struggles to grasp the carnage. Amidst the shrieks, she fears the spirits have attacked. A hooded figure seizes her, claiming he's abducting her. Before the captor can flee, Jaeon cuts him down. He casts a piercing look of disdain at Soru, then departs. She sits paralyzed amidst the fresh crimson spray, her mind reeling from the violence she just witnessed. A mortal had slain a phantom. Recalling how spirits fled his presence, she wonders if he is her salvation. Jian pivots back toward the invaders, diving headfirst into the chaotic symphony of clashing blades. As his steel meets theirs, an unsettling realization washes over him. These are no mere rioters. Their attire is foreign, and their movements possess the lethal precision of highly trained martial masters. These aren't simple thieves seeking gold. He questions if Rebel is merely a mask for a much darker purpose. Yet, his fury demands blood. As he carves through them, he spots the royal guards paralyzed by sheer terror. He bellows for the cowards to arm themselves, commanding Biryong to join the fray immediately. As Biryong lunges forward, he glimpses embers consuming the walls and desperately alerts Jaeon to the spreading inferno. The insurgents vanish, using the flames as cover. Jian weighs the pursuit but prioritizes the blaze. The palace can burn, but he won't let the city perish. He commands the guards to drain the ponds and extinguish the rampaging fire before it's too late. A quivering soldier frets over the escaped enemies, but Jian snarls that the inferno is their only priority. Captives can wait. Observing the chaos, Biryong remarks that Jian's legendary war record is clearly well-deserved. The troops obey his every word, ignoring their own commander's authority. Jiang eyes his wounded hand, musing that he'd much rather be feared and admired than pitied by anyone. Then, Biryong spots Soru. She's dragging herself through the dirt while the panicked crowd tramples her like a ghost. A stranger crushes her fingers underfoot. Aghast, Biryong begs Jaeon to attend to his bride. Jaeon coldly dismisses him, stating he intends to cast the girl out the moment this disaster ends. His cruel words are cut short by a faint, trembling voice Soru, asking if he truly means to abandon her. They turn to see her tearful gaze. She whispers a desperate plea, begging for the chance to remain. He scoffs, demanding why he should care when this cursed union has made him the kingdom's laughingstock. Her presence fuels his rage. He storms off, leaving Baer stunned by the depth of his master's fury. Soru clings to Jian, acknowledging that she was never the bride he truly desired. She asks for no affection, only a small corner of his world where she might exist under his protection. She vows silence, but Jian brands her selfish, throwing the dark rumors of her death-dealing nature in her face. She whispers that his soul radiates as brightly as the sun. His fire repels the spirits. Though she knows she brings death, she craves the safety only his warmth provides. Her childhood nanny was shredded to pieces, yet the world blamed wild beasts. Spirits whispered the cruel truth to Soru. Her existence was a death sentence. Every soul who loved her met a ghostly end. She pleads with John, begging to stay by his side just to live a normal, harmless life. Bayon whispers a cold reminder. Soru is the ultimate weapon for John's bloody revenge. John scorns her as useless, but Sue bites her lip until blood flows, pressing her wound to his. His flesh knits back together instantly, proving her blood holds a divine, healing power. Speechless and shaken, John listens as Soru reveals her blood is spirit water and her flesh a miracle elixir. Before John can explode in rage, Biryan intervenes, claiming Soru will be Jian's greatest asset. He leans in, whispering a dark reminder of the vengeance John craves. John grants her shelter, but warns she is no true wife. Soru accepts, promising to ask for absolutely nothing. Her soft thank you stops Jian cold. He wonders why feel gratitude for a man who only intends to use you? Deep in the shadows, vile creatures crawl back to their master, thirsting for the next move. They hiss in frustration. Jay's presence keeps them from devouring Princess Soru. A talkative minion is silenced forever, as the master rips out his heart, freezing the rest in pure terror. After consuming the heart, the master commands them to wait. The creature bows, trembling in the dark. Only Soru's flesh can satisfy the master's eternal, gnawing hunger. Sycophants swarm the gates the next day, seeking favor, but Jian remains cold and indifferent. Buried in paperwork, Jian fumes over his lazy lieutenant's constant disappearing acts. Bir-young swears he spent the night weaving a web of influence to bolster John's power. Jaeon sees through Bir-young's ambition, triggering a political lecture that leaves John completely unimpressed. Bir-young warns the king is likely plotting the exact same moves. Jahan's fame is rising, but the man himself knows this glory is a fleeting shadow. Suggesting John beg the king earns a cynical laugh before a list of powerful allies is presented. Why would these men follow a disgraced warrior who has lost the king's grace? Bir-young reveals their secret weapon. Soru's blood can cure these dying lords, turning them into loyal, obedient hounds. Seeing Ja hesitate, Bir-young asks, has his cold heart softened for Soru? John snaps a denial, claiming he hasn't even glanced at her face since their wedding night. Pressured to decide, John ignores his guilt and agrees to exploit Soru's selfless sacrifice. Eagerly, Bir-young rushes out to spread whispers of Soru's miraculous healing touch. He leaves with one warning: treat her well or their entire future vanishes if she flees. Days later, Soru finds peace in the garden until her anxious maid Yam approaches with water. Yam asks why Soru isn't hurt by the master's cold silence and his refusal to even see her. Soru only sees a savior, a man who offered shelter even when his heart was closed. Yam argues that as her husband, John owes her respect and care. To Soru, even this cold neglect is the kindest treatment she has ever known. Haunted by the lives her curse claimed, she sees Ja as the radiant light that finally pulled her from despair. Bound by a debt she can never repay, Soru's gentle soul shocks Yam, who expected a monster. Yam vows to serve Soru with unwavering loyalty. Hesitantly, Soru asks for flowers, a simple wish that feels like too much to ask. Yam promises a garden, while Jae suddenly demands Soru be brought to him at once. A disciple clings to life after a brutal blow to the head, a wound that spells certain death. Jae uses this tragedy to test Soru's power, loathing himself for sinking to Bir-young's level. Soru arrives looking small and fragile, like a child lost in a world of giants. Taking her hand, Jaeon guides her to the dying man, revealing the reason for her summons. Gazing at the gore, Soru admits she doesn't know, as no one has ever dared to let her close before. John tries to dismiss her, but she refuses to back down, desperate to help. Seeing her tragic resolve, he offers a blade to spare her lips from more pain. Without a single second of hesitation, she drives the cold steel deep into her palm. John erupts in a sudden fury, his heart racing at her reckless and bloody sacrifice. She begs to heal the fallen, touching the disciple's wound with her own fresh blood. Soru watches with bated breath as the disciple's ragged gasps finally find a steady rhythm. A miracle occurs as the wound vanishes, yet her own hand remains cruelly unhealed. Recalling the advice to be kind, John offers a rare and gentle head pat. "You saved a life," he whispers, watching her face bloom with a radiant, pure happiness. Later that evening, John reveals the truth of her power to a stunned Bir-young. Bir-young is ecstatic, immediately plotting to contact the most powerful name on their list. A wealthy merchant's daughter lies dying, offering them a perfect chance to gain immense influence. Despite seeing Soru's lingering injuries, John chooses to move forward with the cold plan. They lure the merchant with promises of a miracle cure, hiding Soru's dark secret. Under the cover of night, the desperate father arrives, cradling his dying child in agony. He offers a fortune in gold, but John's eyes remain cold and strictly professional. Bir-young urges him to be tactical, as John commands the cursed girl to enter. The merchant trembles at Soru's name as she is led toward the bed of death. The father's frantic protests are instantly silenced by John's overwhelming and icy authority. Soru kneels before the girl, letting a single drop of her lifeblood fall as medicine. The merchant's panic turns to stunned silence as his daughter finally speaks his name. His rage dissolves into tears of gratitude, while Soru offers only a faint, tragic smile. That selfless smile stirs a strange, burning irritation within John's stone-cold heart. As business discussions begin, Soru clings to his robe, seeking just a shred of approval. He dismisses her coldly, though she thanks him for fulfilling her small, desperate wish. John storms off in a dark mood, annoyed by her endless and humble gratitude. He curses the girl in his mind, wondering why she makes his heart feel so heavy. The next morning, the nation of Hone is paralyzed by a strict new martial law. Ashita, the legendary southern judge, arrives to investigate the shadows haunting the realm. He realizes the palace attackers were not men, but monsters fueled by ancient malice. The master's prophecy of a coming catastrophe is finally beginning to take shape. His partner, Euron, snaps him back to reality with a sharp and sudden reprimand. Their investigation reveals that the monsters fear the sun-like aura surrounding John's house. John stands as a blinding light that keeps the darkness of the goblins away. Yuren questions if protecting Princess Soru is worth the risk of a total war. Ashita disagrees, knowing Soru is the very prize the monsters are willing to die for. A blood-curdling scream echoes through the docks as a gruesome new discovery is made. The carnage reveals the work of a high-ranking and terrifyingly powerful demonic entity. The crowd scatters in fear, leaving the two investigators alone with the cold body. The same malevolence from the palace massacre has returned to haunt the city streets. Ashita reveals Soru is a celestial being, a legendary feast for any hungry demon. By devouring her, a monster can escape its curse and be reborn as human. A tragedy born once a millennium, a heavenly soul trapped in the wrong world. Her divine power was likely stolen from her eyes, leaving her vulnerable and blind. If the goblins find her now, the entire world will fall into eternal ruin. Greed will ignite a bloodbath, dragging humanity into the Oracle's predicted chaos. They must shatter this dark fate before the end begins. Fearing the goblins' hunger, he and Yoren stand guard at Jehoga to shield Soru. Haunting dreams plague Soru as a spectral beast hungers for her very soul. The monster salivates in anticipation, but a servant's arrival breaks the nightmare. Scars mar Soru's skin, bitter evidence of the lives she saved with her blood. She spills her lifeblood once more, offering a miraculous cure that heals instantly. Pain sears her body, yet she smiles, cherishing others' health over her own. Loving Jaeon is her only sanctuary, even if he remains distant and cold. Darkness creeps in as the master goblin tracks the sweet scent of her blood. He lunges for the kill, but an invisible divine barrier repels his touch. King Garun summons Jahan, suspicious of the growing crowds flocking to his gates. Jawan dismisses the king's concern with a smirk, mocking the royals' growing unease. Tension peaks as Garyon orders Jawan to hunt down the rising rebel threat. Jawan coldly refuses. Gun sneers, demanding to know the true reason behind his blatant defiance. John sees the trap but doesn't flinch, questioning why he should serve a tyrant. Enraged, Garun strikes, hurling a chalice that shatters against John's stoic brow. Blood spills, yet John's words sting deeper, leaving the king screaming in rage. John walks away, no longer the submissive pawn, but a man ready for war. With the people's devotion as his shield, he is now beyond royal reach. He swears vengeance against Garyon, only to be stopped by Princess Scarin's voice. Her presence triggers a flood of memories from their very first fated encounter. He rebuffs her touch, spitting that her guilt is a poison he won't swallow. Jawan departs as Birang waits, while Garen's maid shouts at his rude behavior. Asked if he still yearns for Garen, Jawan scoffs at such shallow flattery. Biryan sees through him it's not love. Jawan seeks, but a cold, obsessive victory. Jian snaps. His past sacrifices were real, but now only the king's treachery remains. Biryang notes that Soru's divine blood could easily mend his fresh, bleeding wounds. But Jian refuses, unable to endure the sight of Soru bleeding for his sake. Elsewhere, an innocent girl slips into the night to meet a mysterious noble. His silent, brooding aura has completely ensnared her unsuspecting, yearning heart. A midnight tryst under the willow tree was meant for her secret confession. To her, he is divine, possessed of eyes that promise a beautiful destruction. Embracing the master goblin, she whispers her longing into the cold, lethal night. He questions her love, demanding a kiss as the final price of devotion. Instead of love, he grants death, ripping the heart from her cooling chest. Her life isn't enough. An insatiable hunger burns within his demonic soul. Terror grips the city as another heartless corpse is found at dawn. Euron's investigation hits a wall. The killer leaves nothing but a trail of blood. She begs Ashita to pierce the veil and read the area's memories. But the chaotic echoes of the crowd drown out the truth they seek. The pattern is clear. The goblin is hunting for hearts with ruthless precision. Ashita realizes the horrifying endgame the monster is trying to transcend into a human. 1,000 hearts or one celestial being, the price of humanity is soaked in blood. Euron warns that human transformation weakens goblins, yet Ashita senses their dark, primal obsession. As Euron alerts the judges, Ashita feels a chilling, unprecedented aura of true danger. This battle won't be easy. Meanwhile, Jaeon is summoned to meet a mysterious guest. Jaeon remains wary. If this meeting were genuine, they would have come to him. He is struck with shock. It is Hani, the most powerful figure in court. Hani is King Garun's shadow and has always viewed Jaeon as a bitter rival. Jaeon demands the point. Ignoring the coldness, Hani bows and begs for his help. Sensing a hidden trap, Jaeon remains guarded but decides to hear the devil's plea. Hani mentions Jaeon's secret visitors, making Jaeon fear the king's shadow is watching. Hani reveals those visitors were desperate souls seeking salvation for their terminal, incurable illnesses. He speaks of Nam Tayu, whose rotting limbs were miraculously restored by a mysterious power. Hani asks for the secret cure. Jaeon maintains his mask, feigning complete, cold ignorance. Suddenly, Hani reveals his own decaying flesh. Jaeon recoils. The man is a corpse. If discovered, Hani's political empire ends, leaving him as nothing but a walking omen. His condition worsened until he saw Namu's recovery, a miracle he had to witness. Under pressure, Namu confessed the truth. Jaeon was the only one who could save him. Jaeon scoffs, but Hani prostrates himself, offering a forbidden secret scroll as his price. The scroll lists every noble indebted to Hani, a weapon that could shatter the kingdom. Jaeon contemplates letting the rot consume him, watching his enemy fade into the void. He takes the scroll, ordering Hani to his estate. Later, he tells Biryong everything. Biryong grins. The king's power is finally crumbling. They discuss the king's relentless cruelty. Even in silence, Jaeon haunts the king. Biryong wonders if marrying Soru was fate. A scream shatters the air. A mutilated, fresh corpse lies rotting in a dark alleyway. The mutilation is horrific, resembling battlefield slaughter. Jaeon demands answers from a terrified man. Thieves are stealing hearts, but Jaeon knows no human thief could be this monstrous. He orders the victim's family be found, showing a rare moment of silent compassion. Yum weeps over Soru's wounds, begging her to ask Jaeon for a moment's peace. Soru remembers Jaeon's rare warmth and refuses. She will endure anything to stay here. She smiles through the pain, thanking Yum before forcing the worried girl to rest. Soru cherishes the feeling of being loved. Then the door creaks open. It isn't Yum. Cold dread washes over her. Multiple footsteps signal that uninvited guests have entered her sanctuary. It is the servants. They fall to their knees, crying for Soru to save them. They cannot ask the master. To the world, they are nothing. Their mother's life is priceless. Soru offers her blood, but they demand more. Blood isn't enough. They need her flesh. Steel glints. They begin to carve into her. Soru only weeps, paralyzed by kindness. She tells herself they are just desperate. She swallows her screams, praying for the end. They stitch her like a doll and vanish. At dawn, Soru is a hollow shell. Is this the price of light? Was her wish to stay always meant to be torture? Suddenly, Yum enters with a fresh bouquet of flowers, their scent offering a tiny piece. Yum promises a new fragrance every morning, a small flicker of hope before she leaves. Inhaling the perfume, Soru's tears fall. In this agony, she finds strength to keep living. As long as there is a sliver of light, she will endure this hellish sacrifice. But the nightly visits become a ritual. The servants lose their guilt, arriving in numbers. They butcher her flesh while sharing gossip, treating her like a well of living meat. By day, they feed her opium and numbing incense, keeping their miracle girl trapped. Soru remains bedridden, her consciousness fading into a hazy, dizzying blur. Is this agonizing torment the price for the souls lost to her curse? When Young arrives with her daily flowers, a chilling realization strikes her heart. Seeing festering wounds, Young begs for a doctor, but Soru blames the restless wind. Though the air was still, Soru diverts the suspicion, masking her pain with flowers. Chatting aimlessly, the maid turns away to arrange the blooming bouquet. Soru collapses. Seeing the spreading crimson stain, Yam's desperate screams echo through the halls. Coldness seizes Soru's limbs as she wonders if her final hour has arrived. Terrified no longer, a strange peace greets her. Death is a merciful escape from agony. The malevolent specters return, circling her with a hunger born of pure malice. They hunger for her soul. Even John's presence cannot wash away her blood-stained sins. Mocking her own weakness, she surrenders to the darkness. As spirits descend to devour her, the Goblin Master's magic explodes, shattering the shadows. "Stay," he commands, his whispered pleas binding her fate to his side forever. Who is this mysterious savior whose voice carries such profound, haunting sorrow? Returning to reality, Soru finds John watching over her, haunted by his palace memories. Reports of barbarian raids on the border had stirred the king's growing anxiety. The king moves to exile Jian to the front lines of a bloody subjugation. Protesting the command, Hai warns the king that the city remains dangerously unstable. Without Jay's protection, the capital will descend into a state of absolute terror. The council's collective defiance leaves Garen speechless as his calculated plans crumble instantly. Victory secured, Jaeon reflects on his wise alliance while departing the palace gates. This newfound political influence proves more potent than he imagined. With the council's loyalty, Garion's fall is inevitable. paving Jaeon's path to supreme power. Upon his return, he finds Yam desperately fighting past the palace guards. Noticing Soru's maid, John demands answers while the guards dismiss her frantic pleas. John intervenes with a sharp strike, allowing Yeon to reveal the hidden truth. Silencing the interference, Jae listens as Yam begs for mercy for the exhausted Soru. Jeon suspects a ruse, but Yam's eyes reveal a devastating, self-appointed mission. Driven by pity, Yam questions his cold heart for allowing such cruel bloodshed. She recounts the gruesome wounds while Soru remains trapped in a death-like slumber. Stunned, Jaeon realizes he has been kept in total ignorance. Confused by his reaction, Yam exposes the treacherous lies of the deceitful servants. "Are you saying she was violated while her spirit was away?" Jaeon growls. Learning of the servants' brutality, Jeon's fury erupts as he storms toward the annex. Casting aside the obstacles, he enters the room filled with the sickening scent of opium. He stands paralyzed by her horrific state. Trembling, he wonders how such monstrous cruelty occurred beneath his very roof. Cradling her fragile form, he vows a bloody retribution for this unforgivable betrayal. Retreating to his chambers, he's shaken by her weightless, ghost-like presence. Summoning a physician, Jaeon grapples with his surging, unexpected protective instincts. The doctor beckons Jeon to witness the true extent of Soru's suffering. These wounds are infected by filthy blades, the doctor warns with a grimace. He reveals the tragic truth. Her body is tethered to the poison of addiction. Identifying the opium, the doctor's words confirm the sweet, deadly scent haunting the air. Those treacherous snakes had been feeding her poison. The physician warns that while she'll survive, permanent scars will haunt her soul forever. Exploding with murderous rage, John storms out, demanding the blood of every servant. He watches the brutal punishment coldly, ignoring their pathetic pleas for mercy. Jaeon reveals the sickening truth. They were harvesting Soru's flesh like common cattle. Biryang recoils in horror, unable to fathom such demonic cruelty within their walls. John snarls that they saw Soru as livestock, not a wife or human. Guilt consumes him. He realized he taught them to treat her like prey. He remembers her heartbreaking wedding day wish, to finally live like a human. Biryang offers comfort, but Jaeon roars that no one had permission to touch her. Seizing Biryang's collar, he declares only the powerful possess the right to use her. His fury blazes against any commoner who dared lay hands on his property. He vows to hunt down every conspirator and deliver a gruesome punishment. Biryang offers to handle the execution, worried about John's reputation as a lord. He insists this bloodbath will ease John's guilt, finally gaining control of the task. Staring at Soru, John realizes she was just a pawn for the king's spite. He had vented his anger on her then. Her fingers suddenly twitch with life. Returning to now, she wakes confused, and he explains how Yam saved her. He demands to know why she never cried out or asked for help. She whispers that she never knew a monster like her had that right. He starts to shout but stops, remembering how his own rage silenced her. He offers her anything gold or power as a hollow price for her suffering. He mocks his own attempt to buy forgiveness, but she looks up, hopeful. He promises anything, so she asks to touch him to see his face. For the blind girl, his skin is the only window into his soul. Panicking at her own boldness, she retracts the request as a heavy silence falls. He wonders if she's testing him or if she truly values such a trifle. He admits his failure to protect her, taking full responsibility for her wounds. He begs her to ask for a fortune, anything to quell his burning guilt. He kneels to apologize, but she refuses, saying his existence is reward enough. To her, the man who tormented her is her only source of kindness. Her devotion infuriates him, yet he gently guides her hand to his face. She memorizes his features, laughing softly when he grumbles about his rough skin. He demands she ask for something better, cutting off her protests with authority. Her final request is simple. Just visit her occasionally, wherever she stays. Calling her a fool, he declares she'll remain in his room until fully healed. He silences her gratitude, unable to accept thanks for a debt he owes. Nearby, a maid escapes into the night, carrying a stolen piece of Soru's flesh. She dreams of southern riches, bought with the blood of the cursed girl. But the master goblin appears, his eyes glowing with a terrifying, ancient hunger. He crushes her throat, snarling that mortal hands shouldn't touch such divinity. He rips out her heart, a lethal price for touching what belongs to him. King Garun seethes, calling his spies incompetent for failing to breach John's estate. The palace is blind. John has locked down his home with ironclad secrecy. As the gates remain shut, the nobility's anger begins to reach a boiling point. He reveals John possesses a miraculous elixir that defies death itself. Since Jae only recently acquired this treasure, it must be forbidden plunder from the war. She escaped without leave, and Garun's fury reaches a terrifying breaking point. John embezzled the king's tribute. The assistant demands an immediate arrest, yet Garun hesitates to strike. With high society shielding John, a simple interrogation is all Garun dares. He suspects a web of treason is weaving beneath his nose. A wicked scheme is hatched. Spread rumors that Jian's panacea is a luxury for the elite, painting him as a hero who abandoned the poor. His heroic legacy would crumble to dust. Gary smirks at the sheer malice of the plan. Garun's loathing for John burned from day one. He knew this man was a viper. Now he'll tear him out by the roots as venomous rumors infect the streets. Biryang begs Yeon to let Soru heal the sick once more, but Jian's heart remains like cold stone. Though Soru's flesh has mended, her life force remains dangerously low. The physician warns that even a single drop of strain could shatter her completely. Jae declares her hands shall not touch a blade again. A fuming Biryang retorts that by shunning the world, Jae is only forging more enemies for his house. The chaos is already at their doorstep. Commoners and nobles alike are battering the gates, screaming for a miracle. Biryang warns that Jaeon's honor is bleeding out, especially after the cold-blooded dismissal of his personal staff. Jaeon remains defiant. He believes Hanbi and the high-ranking lords will never let his pillars crumble. Biryang issues a chilling prophecy. Those fickle lords will vanish like mist the moment the public tide turns against them. Their darkest secret will be dragged into the light. Soru will be seized and Jian exiled for crimes against the crown. He challenges Ja's resolve. His duty is to the bloodline. Will he truly sacrifice centuries of legacy for a moment of mere pity? Jaeon recalls the cruel laughter of society and the sting of being the heir to a fallen, broken house. His gaze shifts to Sue. Finally, he snaps if his lineage falls because he refused to break a fragile woman, then let the world burn. John cuts the debate short and stalks away, leaving only a cold promise to speak with Hai. Biryang shouts a final question. Does he love Siru? John roars back that he has no further use for that weakling. He claims he'll handle the crisis alone. Biryang needs to stop his pathetic whimpering and find a smarter way out. He scoffs that Biryang is the one obsessed with Soru, given how her name never leaves his tongue. Virong senses a terrifying shift. In the past, John was a pragmatist who chose the sharpest blade, but this new emotional recklessness feels like a disaster. John finds Soru drifting through the garden alone, lost in the delicate scent of the blooms. He lashes out in fear. She's defenseless, and the shadow of her would-be assassin still looms over every corner of this estate. Her soft apology melts his rage. He hauls her up, promising to send Yam to her side, but strictly forbids another solitary stroll. He turns to leave for an audience, but whispers a rare promise. If she stays hidden in her room, he will visit her tonight. She beams with pure joy at his words. He stares back, bewildered by how such a small promise could light up her world. Why doesn't she curse him for his cruelty? Every time she smiles through the pain, it feels like his own heart is being slowly ripped apart. The Master Goblin, having just feasted on the hearts of Soru's tormentors, feels a strange, gnawing hollowness in his chest. As the last servant pleads for mercy, the monster tears his heart out regardless. So, this is what true burning rage feels like, he murmurs. He recalls Soru offering herself to the vengeful spirits. Why didn't she scream? Why didn't she let her hatred consume the world? An old goblin suggests she's either a simpleton or a soul so broken she has no room left for anger. The Master Goblin pictures Soru beside John and realizes he is the anchor holding her back from the abyss. Days pass in a blur. Soru is so lost in a daze that Yam's voice barely reaches her. She simply whispers that the fragrance of flowers is her only peace. Suddenly, Jaeon sweeps into the room. His first words a sharp inquiry about her evening meal. Her lack of appetite sparks his temper. He assumes her silence is a sign of hidden suffering within these walls. Yan bravely interjects that Soru is suffocating indoors. Despite Soru's frantic protests, Jaeon commands her to prepare for the outside world. He's taking her for a stroll. Later, she waits for him at the threshold, her heart pounding in anticipation. He offers his sleeve as a tether, guiding her gently. He mentions the night market is alive and asks if there's any delicacy she desires. She hesitates before whispering of flour taffy, the secret sweetness her nanny once used to heal her lonely childhood heart. She used to cherish every bite, moved that anyone could care for her. Without a second thought, Jian vows to find it. In her rush of joy, Soru stumbles. Jian's breath hitches as a haunting vision of her, collapsed on their wedding night, flashes before his eyes. He silences her apologies with a gentle touch, kneeling to fix her shoe before firmly intertwining his fingers with hers. He pulls her into the vibrant crowd. She tells herself this is just his guilt speaking, yet her soul yearns to believe in his warmth. Soru claimed she didn't mind her fate, yet the market's chaos finally breaks her trance. John is stunned. Even with death lurking nearby, the night market's energy remains unshaken. Melodies drift through the air, drawing Soru's curiosity. Sensing her wonder, John guides her closer. Eyes turn toward them. Whispers erupt, it's the ghost princess, the cursed bride who brings only ruin. Fear ripples through the crowd. Is their very safety at risk just by her presence? They push deeper into the madness. This long-awaited festival is more overwhelming and chaotic than ever. A shadow of guilt crosses John's mind. Should he be celebrating while bodies remain unavenged? Soru whispers her gratitude. Seeing such life for once, John just scoffs at her endless thanks. Spotting a colorful candy stall, he practically hauls her over to the sweet maker. He buys a mountain of flour taffy, thrusting the treats into her trembling hands. He smirks. If she eats until she's sick, maybe she'll finally stop pestering him for more. Before a thanks can escape, he stuffs candy into her mouth, finding her squirrel-like expression cute. As they turn to leave, a shimmering hairpin catches John's sharp gaze. She dresses like a child, he thinks. He tucks her away, commanding her to stay put. She begs to follow, but he refuses. The crushing crowd would only exhaust her frail frame. Left alone, Soru battles rising panic. Surely he hasn't abandoned her to the shadows? Once, his presence was enough. Now, his every touch makes her heart crave something far more. A stone strikes her temple. Pain explodes, and Soru collapses as the world spins. "Monster!" they scream. They accuse the ghost princess of summoning spirits to devour their souls. She pleads her innocence, her voice trembling, but their hatred is a deafening wall. The mob swells. "Why is she here?" they roar. "Has she come to claim our lives?" Dark whispers turn to bloodlust. Perhaps killing the cursed girl is the only way to survive. A rock is raised. Suddenly, a monstrous hand intervenes. The master goblin has arrived. The crowd recoils in terror, demanding to know what demon stands before them. As his true form ripples forth, Soru intercedes. "Take me instead," she begs, shocking the beast. Deep within the abyss, a monster was born, an entity of eternal, gnawing hunger. He consumed all until a stray beam of light whispered a name he never knew. Curiosity burned brighter than hunger. For the first time, the beast climbed toward the sun. Humans were a mystery. Why didn't they feast on each other? He stepped into their world. They met his curiosity with blades. They struck first. The goblin growls to the trembling girl. His voice is a haunting memory. "Why protect those who only seek to hurt you?" he asks. Another stone flies. "Are you with her?" the cowards scream, their fear turning into mindless rage. "They're just afraid," Soru whispers. "If I simply vanish, everyone will finally be safe." John returns to a nightmare. Seeing Soru bleeding, she collapses into his arms, seeking protection. Fury ignites in John's eyes. He lunges at the goblin, certain this beast harmed his wife. Though weakened, the goblin scoffs. To him, John is the one truly breaking Soru's heart. Claws flash, but Soru shields John. She begs the monster to spare the man she loves. Confused, but seeing her crimson wounds, John sweeps her up, his heart racing with terror. "I'll make you pay," he vows. Behind them, the mob mocks his arrogance for guarding a curse. The crowd jeers at the goblin. Why defend such a pathetic, gloomy wretch? They spit vile insults, laughing at Soru's misery. The goblin watches, stunned by her silence. His patience snaps. With a sickening rip, he claims a heart, sending the crowd into panic. "To understand her, I must become human," he muses. Meanwhile, Soru's wounds are finally tended. The doctor warns John she must be careful. One more shock could reopen every old wound. Alone, Soru's heart sinks. Will John finally see her as a heavy burden and cast her away? Soru trembles, fearing exile, but John bows his head, haunted by his failure to protect her. Her tears shatter his composure. He freezes, heart racing as he mistakes her sorrow for physical agony. "It's my curse, not your fault," she whispers. Though longing to stay, she hides her pain. He settles her into bed. Fading into sleep, she mourns her lost candy with a soft apology. With an irritated sigh, he promises to replace her trivial loss immediately. Retreating, he touches the hidden hairpins in his robe. A gift for another night, when safe. Dawn breaks over a grisly scene. Ashita surveys the death tree, counting the mounting souls lost. Will this urban slaughterhouse ever close? The killer's hunger seems insatiable in these city shadows. Yor appears, seeking answers. But Ashita's grim silence confirms the monster leaves no spiritual trace behind. One killer, many wounds. Yor gasps as Ashita reveals the impossible truth behind the mangled remains. The horror escalates. A legion of over 100 goblins now serves a single, terrifying master. Euron reels in disbelief. How could a summoner of such magnitude mask their presence from them? The evidence is chillingly precise. Bodies left intact, save for hearts plucked with surgical, demonic cruelty. These beasts have defied their nature. No infighting or mindless feeding, only cold, disciplined obedience. A supreme alpha has suppressed their primal instincts. A true king of monsters has emerged. How do we hunt a ghost? Euron cries. Ashita fumes, until a scream pierces the morning air. A messenger arrives, pale with terror. The night market has become a graveyard. None were spared. Ashita bolts toward the carnage. He finds a sea of corpses, a buffet of death under the sun. Rage boils in his veins. A solemn vow is forged. The Master Goblin's head must fall. Panic ignites like wildfire. From every alleyway, the market massacre is the only name spoken. 𝒉𝒅 listens to the whispers. Could this bloodbath finally turn the people against the royal family? Hope shatters instantly. The mob has found their scapegoat, the ghost princess, 𝒉𝒅, and her departure. Conspiracies swirl. The crowd snarls, convinced the great houses are complicit in this demonic harvest. 𝒉𝒅 intervenes. Logic dictates Jehoga would be the first to fall if 𝒉𝒅 were the cause. The mob roars back. Jehoga blood has spilled. They point fingers at 𝒉𝒅, branding her cursed. 𒉉𝒅 defends their recent miracles, but the man sneers. A cure for gold is no mercy. 𒉉𝒅 sighs. Had Jay shown compassion to commoners, this hatred might have been avoided today. Exhausted by the futile argument, 𒉉𝒅 turns his back on the venomous, shouting crowd. Fate intervenes. A familiar, chilling presence brushes past him, the Master Goblin himself in the flesh. 𒉉𝒅 pursues the phantom through a stone maze, but like mist, the entity vanishes into thin air. From the shadows, the Master watches his hunter. Shall we kill him? The Elder Goblin rasps. Leave him, the Master commands. His gaze is fixed on a simple piece of 𝒉𝒅's taffy. The Elder questions his hesitation. The order was total annihilation of Jehoga, yet the Master remains silent. Pivot to cruelty. The Elder barks orders. 50 human hearts must be harvested before moonrise tonight. The judges are watching. The eyeless one whimpers. The Elder asks, do you dare defy him? Terror grips the eyeless beast. As they bicker, the Master Goblin drifts away, lost in thought. No answer comes. The Elder grumbles, sensing a shift in the Master's increasingly erratic whims. He glides through the city like a predatory god, ignored by the mundane world around him. Mortal beauty means nothing to him. His mind is trapped by the memory of 𝒉𝒅's hug, that look of pure light. He's never seen it. Does she love him? He watches her afar. A dark curiosity takes hold. If he devours her heart, will this gnawing obsession finally end? A midnight drunk stumbles into a trap. Clawed hands emerge from darkness to claim his life. Fate intervenes. Ashita descends as a black-winged omen, sending the terrified drunkard fleeing in terror. Ashita pins the beast. Make him talk, 𝒉𝒅 urges. The goblin snarls, defiant even in defeat. But one look at the searing holy charm, and the goblin's bravado dissolves into desperate truth. Asha demands the Master's identity, but the goblin's silence forces Ashita to threaten it with a searing charm. Their Master stole his very name, binding his soul to an absolute, unbreakable command he cannot defy. For a goblin, their name is their lifeblood. To know it is to hold their destiny in your hands. They guard these names fiercely, yet this mysterious Master appeared, already possessing the secret keys to their existence. Forced to their knees, they were commanded to harvest human hearts, a bloody decree they were powerless to resist. When Ashita demands a name, the creature trembles. Yato. At that same moment, Yato invades 𝒉𝒅's slumbering mind. Drifting in a dreamscape of water, she asks if death has arrived. His cold yes meets her eerie serenity. He hesitates mid-gesture, his voice darkening as he asks if her supposed protector is actually her cruel tormentor. Jay locked her up and harvested her very flesh. Yet she offers him devotion instead of righteous fury. Suspicion flickers, was Yato the beast from the market? Still, she defends Jaeon, calling him her kind-hearted savior. Yato simply cannot fathom the words she speaks. He scoffs at humanity's inherent greed, claiming their masks of kindness eventually crumble to reveal a selfish core. Anyone else would have fled after such agony, yet she stayed. Is it love? The question leaves her speechless. The idea of loving John feels like an impossible dream to her. Wishing for his happiness isn't love, she tells herself. To harbor such feelings would be a wicked arrogance. You already know, Yato whispers, exposing the raw truth she fears. She is deeply in love with Jaeon. To a goblin, her lack of resentment is incomprehensible, a strange mercy born only from her heart's devotion. His hatred burns for Jaeon, promising a bloody end, while she desperately pleads for her protector's life. A sense of ancient familiarity haunts her until John's voice breaks the spell, asking if shadows plagued her sleep. Admitting her fear, she tries to brush off his concern, claiming this restless night was merely a rare exception. Unconvinced by her facade, Jae decides to remain by her side until sleep finally claims her once more. Sleep eludes her as Yato's piercing words echo in her mind, challenging her heart's hidden truth about Jien. Could it be true? Is this overwhelming gratitude actually the budding flower of a soul-deep romance? Such feelings feel sinful, leaving her heart in turmoil. Meanwhile, Jaeon returns, his face a mask of rage. His bid for Grand General hit a wall. Honey insists the market disaster has made the timing far too treacherous. John concedes that the current timing is truly disastrous. Delays are dangerous, yet Hani's cold inquiry about Siru's recovery and her lingering value catches him completely off guard. Back in the present, Jaeon's fist slams into the stone wall in fury. He must seize the title of Grand General to finally break free from these suffocating political chains. Tempted to exploit Soru, he recoils in self-loathing, striking the wall until his own blood stains the stone. He vows to conquer his enemies through his own raw power, refusing to sacrifice her for his ambition. Sudden panic erupts as a servant cries out the unthinkable. Sue has vanished into thin air. Fear grips John as he joins the search, suspecting his own treacherous servants have kidnapped her once again. Terror tightens its grip on his heart until Sue's faint, desperate voice finally reaches his ears. He finds her collapsed amidst the thorns, her state of disarray sending a jolt of protective fury through him. When a servant approaches, John's icy command cuts through the air, ordering everyone to stay back at once. The man's persistence earns a roar of pure menace from Jaun, sending the terrified servant fleeing for his life. Shielding her with his coat, Jian demands to know why she's wandered into danger in such a state. Trembling, she confesses that fear drove her into the brush, leaving her trapped as the thorns snared her hair. Jian chides her for not calling out, only to be struck by the realization of her deep-seated trauma. His hands move with unexpected tenderness to free her, causing a crimson flush to creep across her cheeks. He tucks her hair back, noting the sudden, deep flush that colors her delicate skin. "Why are you blushing?" he barks, while she hides her face, convinced that she looks absolutely hideous. Denying her words, he gazes at her doll-like beauty, his focus drawn to those haunting, ethereal eyes. They shimmer like moonbeams on a silent lake, making him ache to know the light they held before the theft. Her soft voice calls his name, making him bolt upright as he barks a command for her to rise. He masks his racing pulse with pity, convincing himself his worry stems only from her fragile and defenseless nature. Guilt gnaws at him for binding her to a man like himself. He swears it's nothing more than that. Elsewhere, Ashita broods in silence, noting the eerie lack of fresh corpses turning up in the city lately. He wonders if Yato moved on, yet doubts the beast would ever truly abandon his obsession with Soru so easily. The eyeless goblin reveals Yato has devoured 700 hearts. Only 300 remain. From his cage, he begs for mercy. Ashita refuses, ignoring the goblin's desperate vow to never harm another human soul again. Unmoved, Ashita cites Yato's absolute orders. The captive suggests a clean escape into the shadows, never to return. Ashita remains firm, showing zero intent to release him. Desperate, the goblin offers a deal he can't ignore. A promise of ancient treasures for freedom finally piques Ashita's interest, making him pause his cold refusal. The goblin describes mountain-high piles of gold and jewels hidden away, all his if Ashita just opens the cage. As Ashita reaches for the seal, Euron strikes with a lightning kick, sending him sprawling back. Ashita claims he was merely dragging the creature out for a beating, but Euron sees right through his lie. With cold disappointment, she threatens to end the wretched goblin's life instantly. As the goblin screams for mercy, Ashita argues he's their only link. She relents, tossing a mysterious box at him. A divine scent fills the air, though Ashita smells nothing while the creature beside him salivates. Only monsters can sense this aroma. Euron demands answers, and the goblin whispers it's the ghost princess's own flesh. He reveals Soru's blood holds miraculous healing power, making her the living panacea hidden within Jehoga's walls. Euron exposes the grim truth. Soru carves her own skin to save lives while her servants facilitate the cruelty. She tracked an exiled servant, used the goblin to terrify him, and extracted the full story along with the box. Ashita is horrified that such atrocities stayed hidden, buried by silence without a single rumor escaping the estate. Euron scoffs. Jehovah suppressed it to protect the hero who built his fortune selling his wife's raw flesh. Ashita questions the goblin about Yato's pursuit of the exiles and why a small piece of flesh isn't enough. The eyeless creature remains clueless, unable to fathom Yato's dark and twisted intentions. Ashita concludes the predator is lurking nearby. Yato isn't done. He still craves Soru herself. Euron suggests using the flesh as bait, but Ashita doubts it's enough. He needs something far more enticing to lure Yato. At Jehovah, Biryang bursts into Jaeon's office, shouting that disaster has finally struck. Whispers claim Soru is the murderer, and mobs are petitioning the king to exile Jehovah beyond the city walls. Biryang warns Jaeon of the growing danger, reminding him of his vow to exile her if she stopped healing. Jaeon snaps back, asking how he could cast her out when predators would surely hunt her for blood. Biryang screams at him, reminding him of the post-wedding exile plan. Jaeon refuses, shouldering the blame for the nightmare Soru now faces. A servant interrupts with judges at the gate. They claim to know Soru's secret and threaten a public scandal. Jaeon's fury erupts, yet he agrees to face the intruders. Ashita and Euron arrive, admitting the judges were merely a ruse to force this critical confrontation with Jaeon. Without hesitation, Ashita demands to borrow Jaeon's wife, intending to harness Soru's mysterious and divine power. Jaeon's rage explodes, but Biryang intervenes, demanding to know the identity of these bold strangers. Ashita introduces them as southern judges, elite hunters tracking the monstrous shadows that currently threaten the kingdom's peace. He explains a demon is behind the killings, and only Soru's unique power can bring the slaughter to an end. Jaeon scoffs in disbelief, finding the tale of a heart-stealing monster to be utter madness. Ashita counters, "Is it more insane than humans slaughtering 100 people in one night without a sound?" Still skeptical, Biryang asks why Soru's power is their vital key. Ashita explains the beast needs 1,000 hearts to become human and currently hides in plain sight. He presents the box, noting that every market victim shared one trait. They were all former Jehovah servants. He concludes, Soru's flesh is an irresistible delicacy no monster could ever ignore. That primal hunger is the beast's only flaw. Biryang asks if they crave more of Soru's flesh. Denied. Jon instantly sees their dark intent, using Soru as live bait. Before a word falls, Jon's refusal echoes. Ashita roars, "Thousands will perish." He challenges Jon, will the nation's hero simply watch the slaughter in silence? Jon snaps back, questioning if he can trust such suspicious strangers. Ashita vows to prove their identities, promising elite guards will shadow Soru's every step. Jaeon scoffs. If you were truly capable, bait wouldn't be necessary. He won't trade Soru for hollow vows. Yuran finally breaks her silence, coldly reminding Jian that he was the first to draw Soru's blood. She claims their sorcery is unrivaled. 50 master judges stand ready to annihilate the looming monstrosity. As Jian wavers, Biryang interjects, whispering that this gamble could finally end their endless nightmare. A path to the rank of Grand General opens, sparing Soru further pain. Jay recalls the greed of others. He envisions the desperate mobs begging for her blood, remembering the weight of Biryang's words. After a heavy silence, he agrees to talk to Soru. This, he vows, is the final time. Nearby, Yam tends to Soru, shocked to find her wounds vanished. Even the deepest scars are fading away. Soru whispers she's glad to look normal briefly. Yam protests instantly, calling her as breathtaking as a flower. Seeing Soru's doubt, Yam swears that soon her beauty will eclipse even the legendary Garan. She adds that Master Jon will surely notice when, but her sentence is cut short. Jay looms, demanding to know his future plans. He orders Yam out, but she fears he'll scold Soru. She frantically defends Soru, claiming all the nonsense came from her own mouth alone. Soru attempts to shield Yam, fueling Jay's frustration. He dismisses them curtly, and this time, Yam retreats. Soru begins an apology, but Jaeon silences her. He shifts the tone, revealing the rising body count. Soru is horrified. Hearing monsters are the cause, she recalls past tragedies and drowns in familiar guilt. To death, he explains the plan. She must be the bait to purge the monsters hunting her. He admits he refused the offer, but Soru's voice doesn't waver. "I'll do it," she declares. He warns of the lethal peril, yet she remains resolute. If she can save others, she'll face any terror. Through tearful eyes, she explains her choice. He wonders, how can she not hate those who only exploit her? She softly admits her fear of humanity, yet her heart holds no room for hatred. Without another word, he departs to tell the judges that the pact is sealed. Alone, she feels Jaeon's presence like a flame in the dark, frightening, intense, yet strangely warm and comforting. Being useful brings her peace. Perhaps now, she dares to hope he won't discard her. Under the cover of night, Ashita maps the trap. A rumor will spread, Soru is leaving for treatment. John supplies the carriage while Ashita's elite guards hide in plain sight as Soru's humble servants. Mystical charms will line the path, ready to ignite the moment the beast shows its wretched face. John insists on joining the escort, but Ashita objects. His presence alone would scare the monster into hiding. 𝒉𝒅'𝒔 chimes in, recalling Soru's claim that monsters are paralyzed by fear near John. Generals possess a divine aura that repels evil. Suddenly, Jaeon realizes why Soru always clung to him. He won't budge. To the shock of the judges, Jaeon demands to march into the jaws of danger. As the fateful day dawns, Soru reflects on the tragic path her life has taken. The world is a living hell of cruelty. Only her nurse's embrace offered a fleeting sanctuary. That kind soul was her only anchor until the monsters snatched her away, leaving Soru alone. Now, a new shadow looms. While Soru waits in silence, Jaeon paces the room, his anxiety overflowing. He begs her to reconsider. This desperate gamble feels wrong, chasing myths while risking her very life. He recalls clearly. Ashita's warning rings out. As long as the goblin lives, Soru is a target and only John can shield her. To settle his nerves, Ashita proposes using a signal flare for immediate backup. A single flare is all it takes for John to rush to her side. Jaeon explains the protocol, calculating every second he will need to reach her. She smiles softly, trusting the guards and the lethal traps he has prepared. He demands a promise. Stay put until he arrives. A servant's call breaks the tension. With protective care, John lifts Soru and places her within the safe carriage. Asha doubts this plan, while Ashita prays the signal flare never lights the sky. Outside Jehoga, the crowd hurls insults, relieved that Soru is finally leaving their sight. An eyeless goblin mocks the humans, blind to the celestial light glowing within Soru. Ashita growls that monsters are the very reason her life and reputation lay ruined. The goblin retorts, humans are the true beasts who hungered for her divine flesh. Without monsters, she'd be torn apart already. Ashita has no words to fight back. At the gates, Ashita warns 𝒉𝒅'𝒔. Once they leave, the real slaughter begins. From the shadows, Yacht watches. He remembers saving a drowning man long ago. No human could help. In his monster form, Yo dragged the man to safety. Gratitude never came. Villagers returned with weapons, fueled by pure, blinding terror. That day, Yato learned humans only see monsters. He sought to understand their nature. If his face was the problem, he decided he would simply steal a new one. He claimed the man's life and identity, returning to a wife's joyful embrace. Warmth filled him briefly. Yato believed he had finally solved the human heart. Perhaps appearance was the only barrier. Perhaps now he could finally belong. But his voice failed him. She knew. Yato stole many faces, the tragedy always repeated. Suspicion would bloom, and he would kill again. The cycle of blood never ended. What truly separates us, he wondered. Then, a monk captured the wandering monster. The monk spoke of a power monsters lack, the divine, human ability to love. He warned Yacht that his blood-stained hands would never hold such a tender feeling. Rage flared. Yatta slaughtered the monk and wore his face to defy fate. Those words haunted him. To find love, he decided to stop the endless killing. Disguised as the monk, Yato adopted a blind boy to perform an imitation of love. He provided warmth and food, watching the human child grow under his shadow. Despite the hunger to devour him, his restraint held. The boy called him father. One day, the boy wept, wishing to see the face of the man he loved. Yato wondered if granting this wish would finally teach him the meaning of love. A fox spirit demanded the monk's head as payment for the boy's sight. Yato hesitated, fearing how the world would react to the nightmare beneath his skin. The fox promised the boy would accept him. In the end, Yato agreed. The boy awoke to a monster. Yato stood revealed, his terrifying true form exposed. He offered the medicine, but the boy sensed a chilling change in his father's voice. Yatta urged him to drink, hoping sight would finally bridge their two worlds. Pain seared the boy's eyes. For a moment, Yatta feared the fox's cruel trick. Then, vision returned. The boy looked up, seeing not a father, but a beast. Fear exploded. He recoiled in horror, throwing whatever he could at the monster. Yato reached out to hold him, but the boy's screams echoed with pure terror. Remembering the boy's vows of love, Yacht ended his life in a dark rage. His hands are for destruction, his mouth for hunger. Humans only love their own. No one loves a monster. Then, rumors spread of a celestial being born human. Legend says that if a beast devours a celestial being, it will be reborn human. This prophecy fuels the hunt. Hearing this, Yato vows to be the one to consume her heart. He believes that becoming human is the only way to finally experience love. Now, Yato unleashes his goblin horde. The No-Eyes spirit warns Ashita of the impending shadows. The ground trembles as a beast lunges, nearly felling one of Ashita's brave warriors. Ashita's magic strikes true, slaying the monster. He warns his men to brace for grouped attacks. Suddenly, a frantic cry warns that a massive horde is flanking them from behind. Ashita realizes they are being hunted. Simultaneously, Soru senses the encroaching malice drawing closer. Ashita and his men clash with the beasts, but the overwhelming numbers threaten their survival. Euron warns they cannot hold out. Ashita asks No-Eyes to locate Yato, but the spirit senses nothing. Ashita suspects Yato is a predator waiting for his prey to collapse from exhaustion. Blasting through the front lines, Ashita warns Euron that a long battle only invites disaster. Before she can respond, Ashita intercepts a lethal strike aimed at her back, crushing the monster. He admits the tide will not turn unless he expends every one of his charms. Euron scoffs at the chaos, claiming she would rather face a real battlefield than this. As defenses crumble, she demands a plan. Beryong suggests their only hope is summoning Jaun. He warns that once Yato finally appears, they will be utterly powerless to stop him. Surrendering the princess is unthinkable. They must call Jaun to break the siege and find another path. To protect Soru's life, Ashita finally hands Beryong the glowing signal flare. As the flare pierces the sky, Beryong whispers of the impending storm. A plan forms. At the capital, Jaun's anxiety grows as he wonders why the battle has not ended. The signal erupts. Jaun gallops into the night, praying Soru survives until he reaches her. Soru trembles as the guttural cheers of feasting monsters drown out the dying screams of men. Ashita enters the carriage, whispering a secret request that will change the course of destiny. Soru agrees to the gambit. From the shadows, Yato watches Ashita carry the princess outside. Ashita announces that Soru will offer her celestial blood to mend his wounded warriors. Yato descends like a thunderbolt, but a shimmering barrier repels his murderous lunge at Ashita. Facing the beast, Ashita smiles coldly, welcoming Yato before ordering the ritual to begin immediately. The trap springs. Yato is imprisoned in a cage designed to hold only the strongest monsters. Ashita thanks Soru for the bait. As she retreats, Yato's predatory gaze never leaves her. Ashita mocks the beast's hunger, taunting Yato for his insatiable greed for celestial and human lives. Yato snarls, retorting that humans are the true gluttons, destroying everything in their path. He questions why monsters are villains when humans slaughter their own kind without any mercy. With a roar, Yato shatters the barrier and slashes a bloody arc through Ashita. Horror dawns. Yato has consumed enough human hearts to bypass any anti-monster sealing barrier. Yato seizes Ashita, declaring that devouring a high-ranking soul will finally complete his transformation. Euron's charms shatter uselessly. As Ashita screams to protect Soru, a familiar silhouette appears. Jaun arrives. Jaun's blade severs Yato's reach. His holy radiance blinds the horde, sending them into agony. Recognizing his aura, Soru cries out his name. Jaun finds relief, yet commands her to stay. Beryong greets Jaun with great relief. Yato's wounds won't close. As Euron tends to Ashita, Jaun demands to know the situation. Ashita admits he was outplayed. Jaun orders the retreat, stepping forward to face the monster alone. Jaun recognizes the beast. Ashita warns him conventional magic is completely useless against this creature. Yato is transcending monstrosity. He feels an inexplicable rage toward Jaun, and the two warriors collide. Euron attempts to intervene, but Beryong stops her. This duel is legendary. Jaun shouts that they'll only hinder him. His blades barely graze the target until he exploits Yato's opening. Yato strikes back. Jaun impales the beast, praying for an end, but the nightmare isn't over. Yato surges forward, hungering for Jay's very soul. His flesh twists into a truly horrific, monstrous form. Soru trembles as she senses the shift. This dark, chilling energy feels hauntingly familiar to her. Yato shocks Jay by ripping the blade from his own chest. Jay barely survives the brutal counterstrike. The beast roars his dark ambition. He will devour Jian to finally become a true human. Soru steps into the fray, commanding Yato to stop. Jian desperately screams for her to stay hidden. She faces the monster directly, calling Yato by name and asking if he's come for her. Soru draws closer, ignoring Jaun's pleas. He can't bear the thought of her being hurt again. She recognizes him now. Though his aura has changed, this is the monster who stole her sight. She offers her own life to save Jaun. Jian bellows that she's being utterly reckless and foolish. Yato wavers, longing for humanity. He reaches for her, but John fiercely pulls Soru into his arms. Yato whispers of lost warmth, her hair, her touch. He wonders sadly if their destiny has truly changed. His mournful words bring Soru to tears. They share a heavy silence before the monster finally vanishes. Yor suggests a pursuit, but Ashita refuses. He knows chasing such a creature would be utterly futile. Ashita grills Sue with questions. How does she know Yato? Why did the fierce battle suddenly end? Jaeon intervenes, silencing the interrogation. Their only priority now is ensuring Soru remains safe and uninjured. He sends Biryong to investigate. Long ago, a cursed princess lived isolated within the palace of Hin. A terrifying shadow lurked there. That monster stole the princess's eyes and vanished into the dark. That tragedy started everything. Soru lived in a perpetual nightmare, consumed by tears and restless nights. Even the servants fled in terror, fearing the cursed thing and the darkness that followed her. Terrified of the crushing loneliness, she once begged her nanny to stay through the long night. The nanny left her a simple ball and walked away. Soru cherished that lonely, first gift. One day, her precious treasure slipped away, rolling out toward the gate and into the unknown. As she wept over her loss, a clawed, black hand emerged from the shadows holding the ball. Startled, she took it. She threw it back, and the hidden monster returned it once again. For the first time, Soru found kindness. She named the monster Yato, and a strange bond formed. He claimed to hate her, yet he never failed to return her ball. Their fate became intertwined. She even offered to let him devour her, wanting his lonely existence to be recognized by someone. Now, Jian's relief turns to rage. He scolds Soru for leaving safety, but she only feared for him. He demands answers. How could she be so close to such a bloodthirsty ancient monster? Would she truly have sacrificed her life? He can't understand her mysterious, deep connection with Yato. Soru struggles to find words. She gently pulls her hand from John's tightening, desperate grip. Don't throw yourself away, he warns. Biryong enters, immediately sensing the suffocating tension between them. The report is grim. Many are wounded, and 3 men are currently clinging to life by threads. Soru immediately offers her healing. John scoffs, telling her to do whatever she wants from now on. He storms off, his voice cold. He claims he no longer cares what path she chooses to take. Later, Soru confesses to Yurin and Ashita. Yato was the monster who snatched her eyes away. Ashita wonders aloud. Did her eyes possess a divine power that the monster desperately craved? Soru explains her sight was unique. She could see things hidden from the world of the living. She saw hearts, fate, and even death. Yato likely used her eyes to glimpse a monster's destiny. Fate is the name carved into a soul. Ashita asks if she has ever truly seen it. She saw the names, but she was never taught to read. She was just a lonely prisoner. Ashita sighs at the tragedy. If only she had been taught, her entire life would be different. With those eyes, she wouldn't be a cursed girl. She would have become a legendary, peerless magician. Soru could have been a divine goddess ruling over legions, yet she is shunned as the cursed ghost princess. Her celestial power is a heavy burden, capable only of healing those who despise her existence. Ashita suspects Yato is wielding Soru's stolen eyes to command the monsters of Han. Having devoured hundreds, Yato is now a volatile half-breed. Soru blames herself and reveals his dark history. She recounts the day a horde of bloodthirsty monsters fought a brutal war to devour her. Only one mangled beast survived. She healed it with her blood and named the creature Yato. They are horrified she named her predator, but Soru admits she simply craved an end to her misery. Weighted by the deaths of others, she tearfully apologizes for once wishing to surrender to the darkness. As the group prepares to depart, Yuran settles a sleeping Soru before questioning their next dangerous move. Ashita commands Yuran to wait at Jahoga before cold-bloodedly walking into the shadows alone. To the palace, he declares. Meanwhile, deep in the woods, a broken Yato bleeds out in agony. His monster blood refuses to mend, fueling a burning hatred for his own cursed, hybrid nature. To him, Soru was a radiant moon shining amidst the terrifying beasts that once surrounded her. Her divinity prevented his hunger, so he waited for her light to fade to become a god. He was baffled that humans loathed her. Why would they hate such a divine, innocent child? Assuming she feared the dark, he watched from the shadows until her ball rolled away one day. He returned it to stop her tears, yet his predatory heart didn't understand her human sorrow. The ball returned again, followed by a smile that pierced through his cold, monster soul. That gratitude changed everything. Suddenly, this beast felt a desperate foreign urge to protect her. Terrified of these growing feelings, he decided devouring her was the only way to find peace. When tragedy struck, a broken Soru begged the monsters to finally end her hollow life. As the horde lunged, Yato's instincts screamed and he threw himself into a blood-soaked frenzy. The massacre turned into a nightmare of fire and teeth, reducing the entire palace to smoldering ash. Standing amidst the carnage, a wounded Yato remained the sole survivor of the brutal slaughter. He vowed to eat her, believing human flesh would finally teach him the meaning of love. But as he lunged, Soru embraced him, feeding him her blood to save his dying life. "Please eat me and live," she whispered, gifting the monster a name and her entire fate. Why did she show mercy? Why would a goddess offer herself to such a lowly beast? He refused, remembering a boy who once looked at him with pure, soul-crushing terror. That memory of human cruelty ignited a dark, uncontrollable rage within his monstrous heart. In a fit of possessive fury, he consumed Soru's eyes so she would never look away. Reading these memories, Ashida's eyes well with tears at the tragedy of their twisted, forced bond. A goblin mocks him, asking what secrets he hoped to find within Soru's shattered, hidden heart. Ashida masks his grief, claiming his tears are merely a side effect of his spiritual magic. He hardens his heart, reminding himself that his only mission is to eradicate all monsters. Days later, Jaeon stands before the cold gaze of King Garyon. Rumors of the ghost princess summoning monsters have set the entire city on a knife's edge. To quell the public's fear, the king orders Jaeon to the desolate border immediately. Jaeon questions this exile, but the king insists it's a necessary sacrifice to appease the masses. After a year of war, Jaeon is being cast out again, sparking a tense, bitter confrontation. He warns the king that breaking his promise will cost him the council's fading loyalty. Garyon erupts in fury, blaming Jaeon for failing to stop the gruesome murders haunting the capital. An officer intervenes, suggesting other soldiers be sent to the border in Jaeon's place. He proposes Soru return to the palace, claiming her presence once kept the people safe. Yet deep down, they know her return cannot stop the impending bloodshed. The king scoffed, claiming a woman is a stranger once she joins another family. He insisted on pacifying the mob, and the council members quickly fell in line behind him. Garyon finally silenced the room, ordering everyone out while he weighed his heavy choice alone. As Jawan left, Hai whispered a cryptic warning. Spilled water can never return to its bowl. Jawan followed him into a room where the council members Soru healed were waiting silently. Hani revealed the king was spreading poisonous rumors through eunuchs, igniting John's internal fury. He explained that Gaon's hatred for John was a toxic legacy of family. Hani refused to exile Soru, a sentiment Jian shared while the monster Yato still hunted. Hani vowed to protect Soru, warning that her falling into evil hands would mean catastrophe. Jaeon argued she was no longer healing, but Hami countered that fate always demands price. What if a life hangs by a thread? He whispered darkly. Jaeon sensed treason, while Garen's servant watched their secret meeting from the palace shadows. Garen rushed to her father, desperate to know what Hani had whispered into John's ear. She noticed the noble's loyalties shifting like grass in the face of a coming storm. She feared that if her father continued this path, the public's rage would consume him. Determined to save her family, she decided to force a reconciliation with powerful Jaeon. Arriving at his chambers, she silenced the eunuch, wanting to catch her father by surprise. She froze as the king held a sharp blade against his assistant's trembling, terrified neck. He roared in fury, cursed by his inability to banish John and Soru's looming return. The assistant begged for calm, warning that another murder would ignite a bloody public revolution. Gary snarled that since the ghost princess failed, he must end Jian's life himself. Garen stood paralyzed in the shadows, her world shattered by his murderous words. She swore the eunuch to secrecy before disappearing into the darkness, her heart heavy. Realizing her father's deadly intent, she decided she must speak with John at once. Recalling his icy gaze, she wondered if his heart had hardened because of her father. That night, Jian's mind was a whirlwind of Ham's dangerous plans and the kingdom's future. When Hani spoke of treason, John reminded him who first suggested he claim the crown. Hani pointed to the nobles, warning they were now targets for the king's growing wrath. If you leave, they die. Hani pressured, forcing Jian to weigh his allies' lives. Jian doubted Hani's sincerity, knowing the man was a cunning viper with a silver tongue. Jay sought Biryang, only to hear whispers of a bloody uprising brewing with the judges. He remembered Biryang's vow to end the nightmare by hunting the monster once and for all. His only thought was Soru. He would never let the beast Yato touch her again. Suddenly, he was at Soru's door. He checked on her, finding her awake and ethereal. Heat flushed Jay's face as he turned away, his heart pounding at the sight. "Wait," she softly called, her voice stopping him as she reached out in darkness. All day, Soru had endured the venomous shouts of the mob demanding her exile. She refused to hide, letting every cruel word pierce her soul like a blade. Lies spread that she summoned monsters to slaughter the innocent, just to stay by John's side. Jaeon's rage boiled over, his sword ready to silence anyone insulting his precious Soru. Despite the hatred, Soru only cared for Jaeon's safety amidst the storm of growing malice. When Yum said he was at the palace, she resolved to wait for his return. As night fell, she refused to sleep, her heart anchored to his eventual homecoming. She desperately planned to find magicians who could finally break the monster's eternal, deadly curse. Suddenly, vengeful ghosts returned, screaming that she was the cause of every innocent death. They branded her trash and a selfish curse, spitting every cruel name possible. Soru clutches her ears, desperately denying the ghost's lies until silence suddenly falls. Jaeon enters, pulling us back to reality. Tucking her in, he softly asks for her secret. Trembling, she asks if Yato's bloodlust has claimed more lives. Fury erupts within him as he begins shouting. Clinging to him, she warns that deaths will continue until Yato returns. Enraged, he demands if she'll be bait again. Vowing to act, she weeps, unable to endure the thought of more innocent blood being spilled. Blaming herself, she breaks down. Jaeon gently carries her back to the safety of her bed. He insists the monster's sins aren't hers to bear. She's done enough and must let go. He marvels at her lack of self-preservation, reflecting on his own brutal training to lead his clan. Once doubted by all, he grew into a man that people only sought to exploit. The king relentlessly assigned him the suicidal missions no one else dared to touch. Soru pleads to assist him. Gazing at her, he touches her lips, recalling her shy request to feel his face. He reassures her, firmly stating once more that none of this tragedy is her fault. Silencing. Her presence grates on his nerves, yet he refuses to let anyone else lay a finger on her. High atop a windswept peak, a recovering Yato stands firm as an ancient goblin hobbles toward him. Complaining about Jaeon, the creature is silenced when Yato asks a sudden question. Why do humans shed tears? It baffles him they weep even when facing monsters. Never trust a human saltwater mask, the goblin sneers. They're deceitful. He explains he tracked Jaeon and found a mob screaming for Soru's exile to save their lives. Shadowing the rioters, he discovered their righteous anger was bought and paid for by hidden hands. The goblin scoffs humans label monsters as demons, yet their own hearts are far more twisted. Yato demands to be led to the mob. Sensing blood, the goblin gleefully prepares for a slaughter. I must have her, Yato muses. At dawn, a protester returns home, only to be erased by a shadow. Deep within the Jaeon estate, Soru realizes Jaeon's icy exterior hides a gentle soul. Suddenly, Yam bursts in a body was found, and the mob returns. Panic flares as Soru demands to be taken straight to the estate's main entrance. Servants strain against the gates to keep the rioters at bay. Yam begs Soru to retreat to safety. But when a threat to burn the house rings out, Soru bolts forward, offering herself to the angry masses. Jaeon intercepts her, his grip firm. He roars at Yam to lock Soru away for her own protection. Gazing at his retreating back, she feels the crushing weight of the burden she's placed upon him. Regret washes over her. Had she known this chaos would erupt, she never would have asked to stay. The gates swing open as Jaeon confronts the crowd. They scream, "Exile the ghost princess or we won't budge." He sneers, telling them to curse the monsters or the failing throne instead of slandering his wife. He challenges them to pick up swords themselves, but the coward leading them claims it's impossible. Jaeon scoffs. Is it truly easier to torment a defenseless girl than to face a real enemy? The leader shrieks that the ghost princess has bewitched him, and the mob roars in agreement. Jae seizes the man, daring him to repeat his insults. He slams him down, vowing arrest if they ever return. The cowards flee. Just as Jaeon retreats, he suddenly senses Yato's dark aura looming nearby. Jae spins around with burning fury, yet Yato remains hidden. Still, he knows his enemy is watching. Inside, a servant leads him to the corpse. They moved it indoors to hide the carnage from the mob. He orders the authorities summoned but freezes. Something about this death feels chillingly wrong. Upon inspection, Jae realizes this wasn't a beast's attack. This was the work of a master's blade. Suddenly, a royal messenger arrives. The king has issued an urgent summons for John to appear at court. Elsewhere, Yato listens to a goblin's ramblings. Apparently, humans are far more vicious than any monster. Earlier, masked assassins murdered a protester before Yato could intervene. The shadows are truly moving on their own. They staged a gruesome monster massacre. Yato and his goblin watched as Jan's servant discovered the carnage. Amidst the chaotic protests, Jian threatened the mob. The goblin craved more blood, but Yato commanded silence. The creature hissed in disappointment. He had been hungering for a symphony of violent action. Yato sensed Soru was safe for now. Suddenly, he remembered his dark hunger. He was destined to devour her. Was he drawn to this place for his prey, or was a deeper obsession pulling his strings? He couldn't explain this magnetic pull toward her side. Meanwhile, Jian arrived at the cold palace gates. King Gun roared about the morning's chaos. He silenced Jian and ordered his banishment within 3 months. Walking out, Jian felt his world shatter. His dreams of becoming Grand General were officially dead. Suddenly, Garen's shadow approached. Her servant arrived, whispering that her mistress demanded an urgent meeting. She flashed Garen's golden trinkets as proof. Jian followed, wondering what game the lady was playing. Her beauty was a dazzling trap. She took his hand, but every touch felt unnervingly artificial. She spoke of trivial tea. Jian cut through the pretense, demanding the truth behind her summons. She played the victim, asking if he hated her after her father's cruel humiliation. He denied it, remembering the blood he spilled for her. He confessed his burning hatred for the king. The honesty was a physical blow. Yet, she praised his courage for speaking such dangerous truths. She whispered of her secret joy when he proposed. She had prayed for his safe return from war. Her heart shattered when she heard of Jaeon's new engagement. Jian questioned why she was confessing now. She claimed the timing was vital. After all, he was being exiled from the capital forever. He recoiled from her touch and turned away. Only destiny would decide if he truly left. She chased him, revealing she knew of his secret rebellion. She begged him to reconsider everything. She offered a desperate bargain, his safety in exchange for his influence over the rising nobles. But Jaeon's mind was haunted by Soru. Garen forced him down, using her beauty to seduce him. She surrendered her body to him. She promised to be his and his alone. He flipped their positions, lying to his soul that Garen, not Soru, was the woman he craved. At dawn, Yato stood in the shadows. A passing woman was mesmerized by his otherworldly, handsome face. He rejected her umbrella, choosing the rain. To her, he looked like a tragic, romantic hero. Her companion sighed, reciting a poem to compete. The woman hugged him, laughing at his petty jealousy. Hearing that jealousy equals love, Yato vanished. The concept of love felt like a foreign curse. Why did he reach for the unreachable? He felt doomed to wander with these agonizing, unanswered questions. Jaeon walked through the downpour, haunted by the ghost of Garen's desperate touch. He had pulled away from her embrace. She warned him the palace was a fortress he couldn't escape. He doubted her words until she confessed. She had tried to seduce him to save her father, so he stayed the night. Suddenly, she noted his unexpected devotion to his cursed wife. He hadn't discarded Soru after the wedding or the protests. His protection of her was unwavering. Jian's only defense was a heavy sense of debt. He claimed he simply owed her. Garen insisted he chose Soru over her. She warned that civil war would destroy the girl too. She pleaded for time, just a few days to sway her father and stop the madness. Jian returned to find Soru waiting in the rain. Her loyalty hit him like a physical blow. After his cruelty, her care felt undeserved. He reached out, but Yato's shadow haunted his memory. Biryong intercepted him, demanding answers. Jian remained a stone wall, refusing to speak. As they drove, Biryong's frustration boiled over. Jian's silence was a wall he couldn't breach. Biryong confessed his terror when Jian vanished. Jian lied, claiming he was merely drinking away his stress. Then, the mood shifted. Biryong brought up Hani's talk of the coming rebellion. He pushed for a decision. Jian asked for time, but Biryong saw no reason for delay. Jian refused to rush. Planning a bloody coup was a path of no return. He reminded Bang of his own warning, never drag family into a personal vendetta. Biryong shifted focus to the corpses near Jehovah. Those wounds weren't made by monsters. Jian suspected Garoon, but knew a mere shadow of doubt wasn't proof. Biryong revealed the truth. The dead were palace servants, and the survivors were paralyzed with fear. Terrified, they confessed that the king's eunuchs were bankrolling the protests outside Jehovah. Whenever the public rage cooled, the king sacrificed a servant's life to reignite the outrage. John was stunned. Would the king murder just to exile a general? Biryong countered, John was much more. Fate whispered of John's destiny on the throne. John sensed a rebellion brewing, but Biryong denied it. He reminded Jian that they weren't alone. An army of allies stood behind them. Recalling Gan, Jian questioned the king's deadline. Biryong whispered, what if we're discovered first? John remained calm, stating that if this was his destiny, fate would pave the way. In Soru's dreams, Yato yearned for humanity. Why don't you devour me? she asked, offering no resistance. He simply couldn't, though the words to explain his hesitation refused to come. She reached out, only to wake up screaming his name. These haunting visions were becoming a curse. Determined to save Yato, Soru sought Jian, but at the door, rumors of his infidelity stopped her cold. The servants whispered of his late-night absence and the scandalous stains of lipstick on his robes. The gossip pierced her soul. Soru was now certain Jian's heart belonged to another woman. They named Princess Garan as the secret lover, recalling the deep bond they once shared. They sneered that any man wed to a ghost princess would surely seek warmth elsewhere. Soru felt it was for the best. A cursed girl like her only invited misfortune into his life. Yet, despite her logic, an unbearable ache began to bloom within her fragile heart. She craved peace, yet now she hungered for his love. Was this the same hunger Yato felt? At the palace, Garunyeong grew restless. Jaeon was eerily quiet, making no moves to retaliate or flee. There was no storming of gates, no desperate escape, only a terrifying, calculated silence. Garun doubted Jian had surrendered. The man was a phoenix who rose after every crushing defeat. A storm was coming. Garun knew Jian was merely sharpening his blade, waiting to strike. Garen arrived with a forced smile, begging her father for a promise before revealing her plea. With hope, she begged him to rescind John's exile, warning of the dire consequences for the crown. Her words were cut short by Garun's roar. He accused her of betraying her blood for John. Losing control, he seized her, screaming, "I am king. Why do they all choose him over me?" As he plotted John's assassination, a report arrived. The spy claimed Jaeon had spent the night with Garen. In a fit of blind rage, Gun struck Garen down, silencing her pleas with brutal violence. He believed her a traitor until she claimed loyalty. Did she only play John like a puppet? "Prove your loyalty," he hissed, commanding her to lure Jian into the palace's deadly trap. By dawn, a servant presented Jian with Garen's hairpin, a silent, urgent summons he couldn't ignore. Hoping for peace, Jian moved to leave, but a panicked Soru intercepted him, searching for wounds. Confused, Jian looked to Yam, who explained that Soru had awakened in a state of terror. John reassured her, but Soru trembled. This nightmare was different. It was a vision of his demise. In her vision, monsters were devouring him with a savage and bloodthirsty hunger. The absence of his presence upon waking convinced her the dream had already become reality. She apologized for her fear, but Diane brushed it aside, worried by her recurring nightmares. He noted her fragile frame, sensing her lack of appetite despite her quiet, stubborn denials. He offered a sweet bribe, flour taffy. The unexpected kindness brought a sudden blush to her cheeks. Relief washed over her as he departed until she spotted a sinister, dark aura clinging to him. Soru lunged into a desperate embrace, begging him to stay as she babbled about those who died. Soru's eyes widen as Garen's hairpin falls, revealing a terrifying pitch-black aura. She warns him it's a cursed trap, pleading with him to stay for his own safety. Jahan denies it, but Soru reveals she knows his lover gave him that deadly token. She admits she's aware of his hidden love, prioritizing his happiness over her own heart. Jahan snaps, pinning her to the wall and shouting that she's brought him nothing but misery. He curses the day he took her in, blaming her for the danger now surrounding him. He storms off in rage, leaving Soru weeping and offering to disappear if it helps. She begs him to stay, while Jahan feels like a monster for making her cry again. Shunning her touch, he warns her not to waste the last bit of his sympathy. He calls her an eyesore, ordering the guards to lock her away and out of sight. As monsters laugh at his departure, Soru vows to save him no matter the personal cost. She chases after him, screaming his name, but Jahan refuses to even look back. She collapses in the dirt, only to be surrounded by a mob blaming her for everything. As they strike her, Soru's only concern is Jahan's safety amidst the growing darkness. She prays for death to take her instead, until Yato appears, obliterating her attackers. She begs him to save Jahan, the only person who ever showed her true warmth. Devoted to the man who gave her a home, Soru faints as Yato finally agrees. Heading to the palace, Jahan is haunted by his cruelty toward the girl he protects. His dream of family honor feels hollow, replaced by a sense of impending doom. Meeting Garen, he questions the king's stance, but she distracts him with a cup of tea. Despite Soru's warnings, he drinks the tea, met only by Garen's chilling, silent gaze. Noticing bruises on her neck, Jahan is suddenly struck by a wave of paralyzing dizziness. He falls as Garen begs for forgiveness, her betrayal finally coming to light. King Garun arrives with a blade, as Jahan secretly prepares a desperate final stand. The king reveals the truth. Jahan is the living image of his perfect brother Seon. Seon was the nation's beloved star, whose death left a shadow that never faded. They said Sion would have brought a golden age, a legacy Garun could never achieve. Years of being compared to a ghost fueled a murderous resentment in the king's soul. Trapped in misery, Garun could never surpass the dead brother everyone still worshipped. Seeing Sion's light in Jahan, the king decides his rival must finally be extinguished. He rages at the pain of facing someone who constantly reflects his own failures. Jahan mocks the king's weakness, narrowly dodging a lethal strike with a quick roll. He hurls glass shards, desperately trying to buy time for the poison to fade. But Garun is faster, slashing Jahan's back and sending him crashing to the ground. With a mad laugh, Garun demands his rival grovel and beg for a miserable life. Jahan's defiant skepticism only pushes the king further into a bloodthirsty, unhinged frenzy. Pressing a blade to his neck, Garun swears to frame monsters for Jahan's gruesome end. Facing his end, Jahan regrets doubting Soru, hoping she won't weep for a man like him. He accepts his fate, having lived a life of duty until this final, bloody moment. His final fear is for Soru's future, left alone in a world of cruel men. As the sword falls, Yato appears, driving his hand straight through the king's chest. The dying king looks up in horror, seeing a face from his darkest nightmares. It is the image of Seon. Garun falls, and Jahan slips into a deep unconsciousness. Meanwhile, Ashita and Yuran reach the palace, tracking the supernatural trail left by Yato. As Yuran prepares a powerful barrier, Ashita steps into the shadows of the ruins. A decade of stagnant dust has frozen this ruin in time. Biryang exposes Yato's dark history as the disgraced Prince Sol. Biryang secures their passage, oblivious to Sen's monstrous transformation. The contract is absolute. Ashita's kills fuel Jay's family legacy. Amidst the infestation, Yuran spots a light no monster would crave. There lies Soru, broken and bleeding in the shadows. Above, a ravenous goblin prepares to strike its prey. Sensing foul energy, Ashita's charm instantly paralyzes the beast. The creature confesses only Yato's command can summon the horde. Yato has vanished, leaving the princess behind in silence. Ashita suspects malice, but the goblin frantically denies harm. Surprisingly, the monster claims Yato protected Soru from human cruelty. Before departing, a robe drenched in sinister energy catches Ashita's eye. The goblin identifies the garment as Sen's cursed legacy. Magic unveils the robe's memories, showing Sen's brutal rage. Driven by desperation, Sen demands Soru's death to reclaim favor. With sudden, chilling tenderness, he masks his fury. He begs for murder, secretly plotting the nanny's demise. Freedom for Sen means slaughtering everyone who knows his shame. Days later, Senuel hungrily asks if the deed is done. The silent nanny speaks, questioning his hatred and stunning him. She strikes for his heart, unmasking Yato's lethal deception. After taking Sen's life, Yato stole his form for humanity. The barrier is set. Ashita prepares to execute the beast. Weeping, Ashita vows to end Yato's agony through death. Yato wipes away blood, fearing Soru's gentle judgment. He ponders their future, refusing to let John find her. Jealousy burns as he recalls her desperate pleas for Jian. Vowing to become human, he fights the nausea of envy. Seeking understanding, he returns to Soru's chamber. A trap! Ashita's charm explodes, binding Yato in light. Divine power surges, designed to purge Yato's blackened soul. In his beastly form, Yato begs for Soru's safety. Trading his pride for her, Yato commands her return. Ashita's labels of monster echo in Yato's shattered heart. Can a beast truly never harbor love in its chest? Despite the lives taken, Yato's desperation feels hauntingly real. Rage explodes as Yato shatters the earth beneath Ashita. He yearns for her presence just as Yuran appears. Seeing her safe, the broken monster quietly retreats. The hunt begins while Yato only seeks to love. Soru awakens to the sound of Yam's bitter weeping. Her concern for Jay ignites Yam's hysterical, jealous fury. Why love a man who would never care back? John survives, but Soru's body is permanently scarred. Soru comforts Yam as Biryong enters, requesting a tense, private audience. Yam resists, but Soru dismisses her. Biryong questions her palace memories. She recalls the mob's fury and chasing Jaun. Where is he? Biryong reveals Yato slaughtered her attackers before vanishing into the peaks. Judges hunt Yato now. Jaun is hurt, healed only by Soru's blood. Biryong apologizes for the blood. Soru smiles. She'd give anything for him. She would have offered it herself. Biryong adds, Yato saved Jaun's life. Soru realizes Yato's sins were for her. Biryong plots King Jaun's rebellion. A cursed girl ruins a king's image. Leave before Jaun wakes, he commands. Jaon would never let her go, so Bir-young will hide her away. Soru falters, remembering the cold weight of Jaon's tragic duty. Take me to Yato's mountain. His eyes are mine. I can find him. Bir-young hesitates, but finally grants her final, desperate wish. Yom wails as they depart. Soru regrets the suffering her heart caused. She stayed for Jaon's warmth. At the peak, Yurin demands her exit. Bir-young explains. Yurin scoffs. Give us Yato's location, then disappear, cursed princess. Soru shocks them all. I will go alone to stop Yato's rampage. He is a monster! Ashita cries. Soru whispers. Then I'll be his prey. Ashita is stunned. Why sacrifice everything for a beast? I know the agony of being unwanted, of reaching for unreachable stars. How could she abandon Yato, the only being who ever truly desired her? She must save him. Soru falls to her knees, begging for mercy. We will live in the shadows. Again, Ashita coldly refuses her. Are the flawed forbidden from living? Then take my life with his. She claims his sins. We will spend eternity seeking atonement. She begs him for mercy. Ashita relents. Soru commands the ancient forest to part, and it obeys. Trees block Bir-young's path. Soru's sight returns as Yato's life force fades. Vengeful ghosts shriek. The princess has entered the valley of death. Begone, she commands. They vanish. Her dreams were Yato's silent pleas. She finds him broken beneath stone, a monster drowning in blood. He flinches away. You are the moon. Do not let me stain you. She embraces the beast. I know now. Every sin was for me. Let's run away, she whispers. One last time, she visits sleeping Jaon. A silent goodbye hurts most, but her presence only brings him ruin. I am your greatest burden, she whispers, kissing his chest with blood. She bites her lip, sealing her love and sorrow into his skin. As she pulls back, Jaon's hand strikes. He pulls her into a kiss. Don't cry, he murmurs in his sleep. Soru leaves, mourning unborn love. If only I were normal, she wonders. Could we have walked together? But a normal girl would be invisible to a hero like him. She thanks him for every warm moment. She leaves a bouquet for Yom, a silent thanks for sisterly love. Soru steps into the night. Yato waits, his silhouette heavy with devotion. He asks if she's ready to leave. I am a monster, he warned, his voice trembling. But she only smiled. Stay as you are, she whispered. You don't need to be human for me. He claimed to have nothing, but Soru knew better. Two broken souls. They would leave the blood behind and find a quiet life together. He pulled her into a desperate embrace. Yet, as dawn broke, Jaon was haunted by visions of a final goodbye and the phantom taste of a kiss. Tearing himself from sleep, Jaon scanned the empty room. Soru! He cried, his voice echoing against the cold, lonely walls. In his dreams, he finally gave her the warmth he'd withheld. Every kiss was an apology for every tear she'd shed alone because of him. I was a coward, he whispered, holding her tight. Let's run to the borderlands together, where the world can't hurt us anymore. He promised her a life of quiet snowfall and heavy furs to shield her from the winter chill. A life of peace she truly deserved. Forgive me, he pleaded, but her image only faded with a final blessing. He woke screaming her name, the nightmare of reality returning. His last memory was the cold touch of death before Yato's intervention. How was he still breathing after such a fatal strike? His wounds had vanished without a trace. The realization hit like a physical blow. Soru had sacrificed her own blood to save his life. That kiss. It was real. Bring me Soru, Jaon roared, ignoring the servant's frantic offers for a doctor as his heart raced with dread. The servant trembled in fear. She's gone, my lord. Her room is empty. There is no sign of her anywhere in the estate. Rage exploded within him. Remembering her final blessing, he stormed out, desperate to reach her quarters before the truth crushed him. He tore through the estate like a madman, searching every corner for the woman who had become his entire world. She wouldn't leave me, he snarled, frantically searching the gardens until Bir-young found him collapsed in the dirt, breathless and broken. Jaon lunged, grabbing Bir-young's collar with a lethal grip. Where is she? Tell me what happened to her while I was asleep. 2 days. She had been missing since the moment he fell unconscious. Why aren't you searching? He demanded, his soul shattering into pieces. Bir-young spoke of urgent matters, but to Jaon, the world meant nothing if Soru wasn't in it. His fury only deepened. The weight of his past cruelty finally crushed him. Remembering the venomous words he'd spat at her, the iron-willed warrior collapsed in tears. Bir-young stood frozen in utter shock. Never had he seen the cold, ruthless commander break down in such a display of raw agony. With Soru's disappearance, the darkness receded. The monsters vanished from the streets, leaving a hollow, haunting peace in their wake. The shadow stalkers prepared to depart. With Yato no longer a threat, their bloody work in the capital was finally finished. Yer hesitated to leave, but Ashita was firm. Soru had fulfilled her side of the bargain. It was time for them to retreat. The king was dead, and a storm of political fire was coming. It was best to vanish before the kingdom tore itself apart. The noise goblin cackled, ready to discard their useful tool, but Ashita had far more devious plans for his new pet. While others argued to destroy the creature, Ashita smiled. A tamed beast was far too valuable to waste in the coming chaos. It will lead us to even greater riches, Ashita mused, his eyes gleaming with greed as he thought of the treasure. Years passed, but in his dreams, Jaeon revisited their wedding day, rewriting history with the tenderness he should have shown her. In this vision, he held her steady as they drank the marriage wine, shielding her from the palace's blooming violence. "I'll stay by your side and be useful," she pleaded in the dream, her eyes wide with the fear of being abandoned. "You are my wife," he vowed. "I don't need you to be useful. I will protect you simply because you are mine." In his imagination, they lived a life of sweet treats and shared winters, finally finding the happiness they were always denied. The joy in his dream was so piercing it left him sobbing upon waking. His servants panicked, calling for a physician immediately. Years bled into a weary reign. Garen begged the new king to leave the fighting to his generals, addressing him as Majesty. "The throne is yours when I'm gone," Jaeon said coldly, his heart still buried in the past as he walked away. A king without an heir is a target. Biryang warned him that his empty palace was an invitation for ambitious opportunists. "Name a successor, Your Majesty," Biryang urged. "You cannot rule a kingdom while chasing the ghost of a girl who's gone." Jaeon's eyes remained dead. "If you are not satisfied with my rule, then overthrow me and find a new king. You still haven't forgotten Soru, have you?" Biryang sighed, suggesting a walk in the city to clear the king's clouded mind. They wandered the bustling night market, a vibrant world Jaeon hadn't truly seen since the day he ascended the throne. He tasted the flour taffy from a vendor. It was bland, as gray and hollow as the years he'd spent without her. "Let's visit the old house," Biryang suggested. It was a place frozen in time, much like the king's own shattered heart. They arrived to find the side gate unlatched. Despite the passage of years, the estate breathed with a strange, lingering life. Then, a melody drifted through the air. Jaeon's heart thundered. Could it truly be her song calling to him from the shadows? He rounded the corner and froze. There, tending to the flowers in the moonlight, stood the woman he had never stopped loving. Yom turns, bowing to Jaeon. He's cold, demanding why she lingers in his abandoned palace. Trembling, Yom confesses she's nursing the garden Soru once loved with all her heart. Regret strikes John. He never knew her heart, recalling only a single forgotten flower. Meanwhile, Jian and Birong seek solace in wine, drowning their heavy sorrows at a tavern. Birong notes a rare vacancy. A couple left early, seeking a miracle for the dying. They didn't come for joy, but for a doctor to save a fading, sick wife. The server gushes over the husband's devotion. He treated his frail wife like a precious treasure. "Let go," Birong urges. 3 years have passed. It's time to bury the painful past. Jian's eyes remain hollow. He's still trapped in the moment Soru walked away forever. He sacrificed her for John, never imagining this guilt would leave him so utterly broken. As John contemplates forgetting, 2 familiar figures appear. Could it be Yato and Soru? He lunges into the crowd, desperately screaming her name into the chaotic, uncaring night. He yearns to tell her one thing, the words he cruelly choked back years ago. He collapses in agony. He'll chase her shadow and mourn his loss until his final breath. Deep in the valley, Soru lies feverish while her monstrous guardian, Yato, watches over her. The goblin sneers. It's her 5th collapse. This cursed valley was never meant for humans. The greedy creature demands a price for medicine. A few drops of Soru's sacred blood. Death fills the air. Yato seizes his throat, a terrifying reminder of who rules here. Terrified, the goblin squeals a warning. A legendary shadow is hunting for Soru's soul. It's Nagi, the great monster, a terror so vile that every demon here trembles. Nagi is devouring his own kind. He fears Yato's true name, but for how long? If Nagi gathers a legion of darkness, even Yato's godlike power may finally falter. "Kill him now," the goblin urges. But Yato cannot leave Soru's side for even a moment. Soru wakes to Yato's care. She laughs. A monster playing nurse is a strangely beautiful sight. Yato feels a fatherly instinct stir, yet a haunting memory of a boy brings sadness. As Soru plays, Yato's monstrous hunger for her grows more potent with every passing day. He craves to devour her. Yet, she smiles, inviting him to share a simple meal. Seeing her eat brings him peace. He refuses food. His hunger is far more eternal. In a sudden, playful move, she shoves a morsel into his mouth before he can react. Sharp teeth graze her skin. A drop of blood touches his lips, and it tastes like ecstasy. Instinct snaps. He licks her wound, pinning her down with a sudden, predatory desire. Yato? Her voice breaks the spell. He recoils, horrified by the monster he almost became. Silence hangs heavy as the sun dips. He carries her home through the darkening woods. "I smell flowers," she whispers. Yato sighs, it's only damp moss clinging to cold stones. In this sunless abyss, only moss survives. To Soru, these are the valley's true blossoms. Yato remains bitter. True flowers would only wither here, just like any beauty in darkness. Darkness shifts. Sensing Nagi's foul aura, Yato moves to end the threat before Soru wakes. It's the lunar cycle, a night when monsters feast on negative energy to reach peak power. Yato's dual nature is volatile. Nagi strikes now, hoping to shatter his rival's fragile balance. The earth-shaking battle ends. Hours later, Soru wakes to a miracle her sight has returned. She finds Yato broken and bleeding. It was nothing. He lies, his voice raspy. She offers her blood to heal him, but he stops her, refusing to drain her life. "I'd rather rot into dust," he growls, "than cause you even the smallest single wound." Soru yields but stays close. She will guard her protector until his wounds finally mend. At his soft request, she leads him to the moss field, their secret sanctuary of flowers. He gazes deep into her eyes, whispering his forbidden name. Now, his very existence belongs only to her. He recalls her heartless confession. Since he lacks one too, he vows to give her his entire soul instead. Finally, the truth dawns on him. The one he sought was right beside him all along. Tears fall from her eyes, startling him, before she pulls him into a desperate kiss. Their journey ends here. Did this tale move you? Rate it 1 to 10 below. Until next time, stay legendary. Bell sound.